Welcome to the Dropping Gems con Muchos Colores podcast. I am your host, Arely Lagunas. This is an audio community where we own and share our stories as trailblazer moms, crafting a unique and meaningful work lifestyle, leading with passion, breaking barriers, and chasing bold dreams on our own terms. Celebrating our Latina motherhood voices to bring you genuine insights of the highs, the lows, and in-betweens of working moms from a first-gen Latina lens. We don't have to travel this journey alone. Let's get started. Thrilled today to have our special guest, Ana Calix, in our Dropping Gems con Muchos Colores podcast. Ana is a biracial Latina single mom from Honduras, living in the Chicagoland area. Her parenting journey began with a beautiful pregnancy that unfortunately turned into tragedy when Liam was stillborn on his due date. Her rainbow baby, Rio, was born 18 months later. She holds a bachelor's degree in pre-medicine, biology, and communication studies from Augustana College and almost completed her master's degree in public health at UIC when Liam was born. Every year, Anna's goal is to complete her degree in Liam's memory, and I have no doubt that this goal will be accomplished in the near future. Anna's unique experience working perinatal care when she experienced a stillbirth, paired with her passion for improving health outcomes for underserved populations, laid the foundation for creating her nonprofit, Gifts from Liam. In this episode, Ana talks to us about the diaper gap and the education gap many families fall into that negatively impact parenthood, and shares how her organization is working to narrow the gaps by increasing access to education and resources for families in need while supporting bereaved families. Ana, welcome to our audio community. It's a pleasure to connect with you and hear your story and the positive impact that you are creating in the community.
Hi, Arely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for us. And we want to hear a little bit more about your background, your driving force, and your motivation. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about your background in your career and how that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you stated in my intro about me, I am from Honduras originally. I grew up living in between the United States and Honduras. My family, my immediate family is still there, my parents, my siblings, and their families. When I graduated high school when I was 17 in Honduras, then I came to the US for college, where I went, as you mentioned, Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois. That was a huge culture shock for me, coming from Honduras to a small town in Illinois, rural Illinois. And now I travel back to Honduras once or twice a year. COVID kind of got in the way of some travel plans, as did pregnancies. But that's my goal, is to go down there once or twice a year. And then my family also comes up here to visit once or twice a year. I do have some family, some relatives in the area who are from my mom's side. When I was in college, I was pursuing a degree in pre-med and biology, and then added on communication studies in the end, just because I really enjoyed it. But that was because my goal was to become a doctor at that point in time. I was in a very horrific car accident in Honduras when I was 8, and that experience shaped my drive to become a doctor. I was very passionate from a very young age about improving health outcomes because of my experience. And my experience was both in Honduras receiving treatment and in the United States receiving treatment, and seeing the vast differences between those two healthcare systems. And had healthcare been better, my outcomes would have been better as well, in terms of subsequent treatment and the length of treatment I had to go through following my car accident. So I was very passionate and committed to working towards improving the healthcare system. And it wasn't until I was in college in the United States that I learned about the field of public health. That's not really a field, or at the time wasn't very strong of a field in Honduras, so I didn't really know about it. But I came to learn about the field and learned that it was really public health that I wanted to be involved in. And so I kind of shifted gears and got into the field of public health. I've since, been working in the healthcare and public health field for over 15 years in different capacities, in different roles. I did end up going to grad school to pursue my master's in public health, which was interrupted by Liam dying. And I was in my last semester, actually, when he was born. And I've made a number of attempts to complete that, but many things have gotten in the way. But mostly, I believe that what gets in the way of that is reliving those moments of being in that program, being pregnant, working in maternal child health care, and then having my experience of Liam being stillborn. But as you said, it will happen. Every year it's my goal, but one of these years it will happen. As I continued in my career in healthcare, public health, my concentration in my public health graduate degree was in health policy and administration. It wasn't in maternal child health care. However, I had the opportunity to work at a perinatal center. And so that makes my experience of having a stillbirth unique in the sense that so many women, so many people aren't aware of stillbirth at all. It's not on their radar. But that was literally my job, was to collect data, analyze data on perinatal mortality and morbidity statistics. So that included stillbirths or fetal deaths, and then preparing those cases for review, participating in the review of those cases, subsequent implementation of different policies and procedures amongst the hospitals that we were overseeing. So I was very well aware of fetal death and pregnancy practices, and had all the knowledge, all the tools, all the resources at my fingertips throughout my pregnancy. And my pregnancy was great and perfect. And I had, OB nurses, doctors who I worked with. So any questions or concerns, I could immediately have those addressed. I was a perfect patient in terms of complying with everything I needed to do in my pregnancy. And even so, I experienced a stillbirth at 40 weeks.
First of all, thank you for sharing your story. As a mom myself, it's hard to imagine going through that experience. It takes a lot of courage, and we thank you for being vulnerable. Liam will be very proud of looking down from heaven. Our sincere condolences for that experience.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Liam really is the driving force behind all of the work that we do with Gifts from Liam. I tell everyone that opportunities keep coming in my path, and I believe that it's him sending these opportunities my way. So that's really what motivates me to keep going in terms of the work I'm doing with Gifts from Liam. And then Rio as well, my Earthside child, he's my motivating force in my day-to-day, and who pushes me to continue to improve myself, our family, our home, so that I can be the best parent possible for him.
Liam has been your driving force, and also your other child, Rio, definitely are part of your motivation. Can you share with us your mission behind Gifts from Liam?
Yeah, absolutely. So through Gifts from Liam, we provide education and resources to promote safe pregnancy practices as well as safe infant care practices to families in need through collaborations with other organizations, with the overarching goal of reducing perinatal and infant mortality. So what's key about that is the education that we're providing. The largest program we currently have is the Disposable Diaper Assistance Program. But what's unique about that program is that it's more than just diapers that we're giving away. With every diaper package, we are including educational information on those safe pregnancy and safe infant care practices. So the families who are in need of diapers are likely also in need of these very important educational practices for their babies, whether they're pregnant or they're parenting. And so they're receiving all of that together in one bundle and meeting all of those needs at once.
What I learned recently is that there's a gap in this country where 1 in 3 families can't afford diapers to properly care for their children. There is a big need, and it's so awesome how your organization is helping, especially in the communities that need it the most.
That's exactly what the diaper gap is, and that statistic is a pre-COVID statistic. There was a huge increase in demand for our organization, our services with the diaper assistance during COVID. And I know that many others experienced that increase in demand as well. And then not only that, but after COVID, there was an issue with supply in general in stores because a lot of the diapers were being brought in from abroad and they weren't getting here. So shelves were empty. So people who could buy diapers, who could afford to buy diapers, couldn't get them because they simply weren't available. So it has been a struggle. Oftentimes people don't see the connection between what I'm doing and how my work was inspired by my experience of having a stillbirth and diapers. But that connection is that the same families that experience diaper need, who fall into that diaper gap, are the families who are also in an education gap.
Mhm.
Families who aren't receiving the highest quality prenatal care when they're pregnant, or for a slew of reasons can't access that care, access those resources, access this very important information for their pregnancies. And then the same carries on into parenting after they've had the baby. So it goes hand in hand, the lack of access to basic materials such as diapers with the lack of access to education.
How are you addressing the education piece, and how is your organization helping with the education?
We have a cloth diaper assistance program. And so every diaper bundle, whether it's a disposable diaper bundle or a cloth diaper bundle, contains this educational information for the families. And we are currently in the process of developing an education and resource guide. So it's covering all key topics for families from the moment of conception through the toddler years, where it's hitting on key points for a variety of different topics throughout that journey, paired with local and national resources for additional support and information, and concrete resources. So for example, with car seats, we talk a bit about car seat safety, what to look for in a car seat, how to properly install a car seat. And then we pair that educational information with, for example, local resources on where you can go to get a free or low cost car seat, or where you can go to get a car seat inspection. And the development of that resource stems from the fact that as we've grown as an organization and made more connections and more partnerships with other organizations who are providing the educational information, it's become too much. So we wanted to condense that into one user-friendly guide for the families who are receiving these bundles.
A great initiative. What are your favorite parts of what you do today in the community? What is it that you enjoy the most? I know you mentioned earlier in the conversation, you've been presented opportunities through your mission. So I'm just curious to know what other parts of your work that you currently do are your favorite parts.
When we do have the opportunities to participate in live events where we're, boots on the ground in the communities, meeting people who are receiving our resources, engaging with other partner organizations and community leaders. That's always very rewarding to see those folks in person, because we don't often get the opportunity to do that. A lot of the work that's being done is more so on the back end.
And what are some initiatives that you have planned for this year, or maybe on a short-term or long-term goal for the organization?
So in addition to providing assistance and resources to families who have living babies to support them in their parenting journeys, we also provide bereavement support to families who have experienced the loss of a baby, whether during pregnancy or after pregnancy. And we've been focusing a lot more on growing that initiative, especially when it comes to supporting Spanish-speaking bereaved families, because support for Spanish-speaking bereaved families is severely lacking in the United States and the world. So I have been working with a couple of different organizations in order to grow that support. And also working on developing Spanish language resources for Spanish speaking communities with another local organization is another project that we're just now embarking on. So in addition to growing the bereavement support we offer to families, we're also strengthening our organization as a whole. We just became a 501c3 nonprofit last year, so we're still in the very early phases of developing and growing the organization. So we hope to continue working through that. This year, one of the goals is to become a National Diaper Bank Network member, to be recognized nationally as a diaper bank. We will continue to develop and make the education and resource guide available this year. We hope to also expand our Diaper Depot program, which is donation locations for gifts from Liam. So anyone who has donations of diapers, wipes, or other baby hygiene supplies can find a location near them to drop off donations.
And it's great to hear all the wonderful things that are in the radar for the organization, and of course, that impacts that community. So that is really great to hear.
But I also want to make sure we highlight the importance of bereaved motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So as a bereaved mom, I do carry that motherhood as part of my journey as well. And for me, what that looks like is gifts from Liam, right? Like gifts from Liam is my way of parenting Liam. That's my motherhood journey.
Mm-hmm.
But any bereaved mother, whether or not she has other living children, is a mom. And that is a type of motherhood in itself. And that is often overlooked in people's journeys at large. My motherhood with Liam is equally as important and substantial in my life. But it's not a visible motherhood. It's an invisible motherhood. But it's really important that we acknowledge that bereaved motherhood is still a form of motherhood. And while most people don't go out and start a nonprofit as their motherhood journey, every bereaved mom has a unique journey in that aspect of their motherhood. And it looks different for different moms, for different families. I do think it is important as a bereaved mom to find what that motherhood looks like for you. Too often, especially in the Latino community, we're expected or instructed to push that side of our motherhood away, sweep it under the rug, not talk about it, and move on from it. But that is not a very healing approach. Our babies are our babies, and they'll always be a part of our lives, and figuring out how to incorporate them into our lives, whether they're living children or not, is really important to our wellness in motherhood, as you say.
A mother's love for her baby is beyond time and conditions, and it grows with each passing day. I know that you are doing a great job keeping him alive in everything you do. It shows, and we're grateful to hear your experience. Not everyone opens a non-for-profit, but that is your journey to continue to live your motherhood journey for Liam through your organization and through everything that you want to accomplish in your future. I'm very happy to have you on this episode to learn more about your journey, to learn about the organization, providing that message. There is a bereavement process for mothers who've had this experience with stillbirth.
Yeah, and it really is a lifelong journey.
There's no shortcut. All these factors in place. Do you have a process of how you can cultivate work-life integration into your life? it is a common topic for moms. I know myself, I struggle with it. I see it more as a work in progress. There's days where I feel like I'm rocking the day, and there's days that I feel like I need to just ease back because it's not going to happen, right? How do you cultivate a work-life integration with your work with a non-for-profit and then with your regular full-time job and then motherhood, of course?
It is very tricky. I will say that. And I feel like, as you're saying, it's this constant push and pull or roller coaster of kind of taking on too much and getting burnt out and then having to recover, and working towards minimizing that sort of roller coaster effect, because it's tough to go through those highs and lows. And it's especially tough as a single mom to be juggling so many other components of my life and still being a great mom to both of my children. I find that I have found that I've had to be very intentional about my priorities. We all have the same amount of time in a day, and it's up to us to decide how we're going to spend our time throughout each day, and what we need to do in order to feel good about our day, in order to feel accomplished, successful, productive, whatever is going to make you feel good in your life. And so those priorities look different for every mom, for every person. And what may be important to me may not necessarily be the most important aspect of life to you.
Is there anything that you enjoy doing to recharge, more like a self-care type of ritual that you do?
I spend a lot of time using my meditation app. And I use that with Rio as well. He uses that to go to sleep. But I do try to be very intentional about at least once a day taking time to use the meditation app, going through a guided meditation. My biggest self-care is going to Honduras. I feel very at peace, and like my stress levels go way down, and that's my biggest cup filler is going to Honduras. So I'm really looking forward to our trip coming up in June. It'll be an extended trip. I also find that it's really important for me to spend time in community, whether that's with family or friends. As I mentioned, a lot of the work with Gifts from Liam is kind of behind the scenes. I do that from home. My professional job as a medical writer is also another job that I do from home. So it's really easy to spend days without having any sort of real human interaction besides with Rio. So I have learned that I have to be intentional about making time to be in community with family and friends, because that is something that is a priority for me, and that I need in my life in order to feel good about my life.
And I would agree with you, always going back to the place where you started, your culture, your background. It's definitely a great feeling. I myself I wasn't born in the US, I was born in Mexico, and it's always great to go back. And I'm glad to hear that there are some things that help you to kind of recharge and take time to do our own self-care, because it is very important. What resources would you like to share with our audience, or information with our audience that they may not know? I know you've dropped a lot of gems, as far as providing information and education and even awareness, right? About bereavement or stillborn, or about diaper gap and education gap.
I think that part of my driving force in doing the work that I'm doing is to be a voice for the families and the babies in this space of perinatal loss. Given my professional background, my career in public health and healthcare, I'm uniquely positioned to be that voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I've made a career out of doing that. As you said, raising awareness about, like, one, stillbirth or perinatal loss in general is still very real and very present in many people's lives. And it's so often and easily forgotten. And I think that's true of grief and bereavement in general. I hear so many people talking about in aspects of any type of loss that they've experienced, where people show up in the beginning and then over time that support is lost. I think it's really important to continue to support families going through this. And that said, if you are a mom or a person who has experienced the death of your baby, the people who were previously in your life aren't necessarily going, and who were previously your support system aren't necessarily going to continue to be those same people as a part of your support system. So we as moms, and I think this is true in our lives in general, having a support system is so essential to our wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't feel that we have a strong support system in place, whether it is uniquely related to a specific issue we're dealing with, whether that's, grieving the loss of a baby, or maybe grieving the loss of a relationship, or whatever the case may be, if we don't feel that we have that strong support system in place, it's up to us to find it. People aren't just going to come to us in the majority of cases. You have to actively seek out those connections so that you feel supported in whatever it is you're going through. And just for our motherhood journeys in general, right? It's important that we have our tribe in order to successfully experience those journeys and have a happy, healthy journey. As far as that I guess would be one thing that to share with people is, if you can support someone in your life who has experienced the death of a baby, do so. And sometimes that's just sitting with them, just listening to them. You don't have to fix them. You can't fix them. It's a journey, and everyone's journey is going to look different. So just sit with them and be with them. I fortunately have had, a number of friends who are still present in my life today, who were before I had Liam. I also have some who aren't, and that's all just part of the journey. And I've made new friends through this process who are my support system. And then the same goes for family. Some family members are more or less supportive in these types of situations. As far as the diaper gap, there are big issues that need to be addressed in terms of the diaper gap in order to minimize the diaper gap. And I mean, like, system level policy changes. But those types of changes take a long time to happen. So in the meantime, organizations like Gifts from Liam and other organizations out there that are diaper banks or diaper pantries are trying to fill that gap by providing these basic resources to families in order to help them support their families, their babies. So to continue to support the organizations doing that, whether it's Gifts from Liam or other organizations, I think many people aren't aware of the diaper gap or diaper need, or how it's a very impactful factor in people's parenthood journeys. So diapers are a basic need. Every baby needs diapers. And as a parent, if you can't provide for your baby's basic needs, that's devastating, right? And it's hard to ask for help. I think especially amongst Latinas, we hear that so often, right? Like, we want to be able to do everything on our own and not have to ask for help, not go to friends or family or an organization to get the help that we need. So to also reduce the shame of providing this assistance or receiving this assistance, 1 in 3 families is a lot of families in the diaper gap.
Yes.
So the more that organizations like Gifts from Liam and others can support families in the diaper gap, the more stress we're lifting off of families who are in the diaper gap. And the more we can relieve that stress of providing basic needs and meeting basic needs for our babies or for their babies, the more they'll be able to focus on the parts of their parenting journeys that really matter, such as their baby's safety and health and development and social emotional well-being, which is something you're not going to focus on if you are in survival mode trying to meet basic needs.
Yes, that is very true. For our audience that is interested in learning more about your mission, Gifts from Liam, how we can connect with you and follow you.
Yes, we're on Facebook and Instagram at Gifts from Liam. And our website is giftsfromliam.org. I'd be happy to connect with anyone who wants to learn more or has any questions or wants to become involved.
I know that no words can soothe the experience of a stillborn experience. And I want to tell you, you and your family, your baby will be part of my prayers. Yes, we have a new episode every month. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review and subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.